Hello everyone, and welcome to another backyard adventure. Today's adventure brings us to Patrick County, Virginia, and the site of the Laurel Hill Plantation, which is the birthplace of Major General James Ewell Brown Stewart. Laurel Hill is located in rural Patrick County, Virginia. And when I say rural, I mean rural. It's quite a hike to get out here. It's about a 2-hour drive from my hometown. And it took me about 40 minutes to make it here from once I reached the county seat of Patrick County, which is named after General Stewart. This is Route 773, which is also known as the Ararat Highway. And right here on the side of the highway is a Virginia historical marker commemorating the birthplace of General Stewart. Just inside the entrance, there's this small visitor center, but like most things these days, it's closed. There is a storyboard here that details the history of Laurel Hill. This information board outside the visitor center gives you a map of the site. So let's go and explore Laurel Hill. This is the site of the home of General Stewart. It burned down, I think, in about 1848, 47, somewhere along in there. But this is the site of where the house stood. And General James Ewell Brown Stewart was born here on February the 6th, 1833. He was the 7th child and youngest child of Archibald and Elizabeth Stewart. His father Archibald was a well-known politician and attorney, while his mother was a strict religious woman. Jeb spent the first 12 years of his life here at Laurel Hill, and in 1855 he left to continue his education in nearby Wytheville, Virginia. From Wytheville, in 1848, Jeb Stuart entered the College of Emory and Henry in Glade Springs, Virginia. He was appointed to the United States Military Academy in 1850 and graduated in 1854 and spent 7 years as a captain in the United States Cavalry. And as I said, this is the house site where the house once stood before it burned down. And it was never rebuilt. The home that once stood here that held so many fond memories for General Stewart was never rebuilt. In the time that Jeb Stuart was born here, and the house stood here, the kitchen where the meals were prepared was in a separate building from the house. And there was a extreme fear of fire about having a kitchen in the house or attached to the house. So they built another building a few yards away from the home where the meals were prepared, and the kitchen was very small and stood at this site. And we'll pan back around to give you some idea just how far away this kitchen was from the main house. Now in 1861, Virginia seceded from the Union, and General Stewart resigned his commission in the United States Army and was appointed a lieutenant colonel in the 1st Virginia Cavalry, and was assigned to the Army of Northern Virginia under the command of General Robert E. Lee. During his time in the Virginia Cavalry, General Stewart rode completely around the Army of the Potomac twice in 1862 and fought at the Battle of Brandy Station in 1863. General Stewart was wounded at Yellow Tavern just outside of present-day Richmond, Virginia on May 11th, 1864. He died the following day on May 12th and was laid to rest at Hollywood Cemetery in Richmond, Virginia. This is the Stewart family cemetery, the very small cemetery here at Laurel Hill. And while General Stewart was never buried here, his father Archibald rested here for a number of years. This cemetery was the final resting place of Archibald Stewart, General Stewart's father, from the time of his death in 1855 until 1952, when he was reinterred beside his wife Elizabeth at a cemetery in Saltville, Virginia, where she moved after Archibald's death in 1855. Now this stone marks the grave of Archibald Stewart, who, as I said, rested here from 1855 to 1952, almost 100 years. And next to him is the grave of Virginia Josephine Stewart, who was the daughter of Archibald and Elizabeth, and she was less than 10 years old when she passed, born in 1835 and died in 1842. And I'm assuming she still rests here. And next to her is the grave of Daniel Patrick Stewart, who was the infant son of Archibald and Elizabeth. He was born and died in 1834. Side of the kitchen, and then we'll spin on around here and the side of the main house. Now there is one more spot here at Laurel Hill that we need to talk about, and this is this small cemetery in the north corner of the property. And this cemetery belonged to the enslaved people who were here at Laurel Hill during the time that the Stewarts were here. And as you can see, the graves of the enslaved workers here at Laurel Hill were marked by field stones. And very little is known about who they are, but they rest here in this small cemetery at Laurel Hill. Now there's one other site that I wanted to visit while I was here at Laurel Hill, and that's about a half a mile away, and I drove down here from the birthplace of Jeb Stuart, and that's the home of William Lecter, who was Jeb Stuart's great-grandfather. And he lived on this site until he was killed by a Tory. He was one of the early pioneers of Patrick County, and he settled here in what is today part of the Laurel Hill Plantation. Now the house stands along the Ararat River, and if it wasn't for the trees, you could look up on the hill there, and that's where we just were, at the Jeb Stuart birthplace. And if we walk over here, we're going to see some boxwoods that was planted by Jeb Stuart's mother, Elizabeth. It's amazing they've survived all these years. And this is the original Stuart well, and it's one of the original structures, if you will, that still stands on the Lecter site just below where General Stuart was born, up on the hill. Now there's one other place that I want to visit while I'm here at the Lecter historical site here in Ararat, Virginia, and that's the grave site of William Lecter. And this is the site of the final resting place of William Lecter, who was one of the early settlers here in Patrick County. And as you can read on the plaque here, it's the oldest known marked grave in Patrick County. William Lecter was born in 1750 and married Elizabeth Perkins in 1778. Goes on to say William Lecter's life was cut short in 1780 at the height of the Revolutionary War. Lecter, who was a military officer, was murdered at his home by a local Tory sympathizer named Nicholas. This is where I'm going to end this video. I hope you've enjoyed my visit to Laurel Hill in Patrick County, Virginia, and the birthplace of General Jeb Stuart. If you enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up below. If you want to keep up with my further adventures, please be sure to ring that bell and subscribe. For now, it's time for me to head on down the road and see what's around the bend.